We're Hasani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
All right, welcome. Good morning. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hasani. It is Tuesday. Yesterday was a holiday. How was your holiday? How was your 4th of July? Did you celebrate it with family and friends? We know we did. We had an amazing time. And so we're back. I can't believe I'm up. It was a long day and a long night. But we're here for you. I hope you're ready to get into a good conversation today. I figure the best way to do this is to do a spinoff of yesterday. You know, 4th of July is Independence Day. It is the day where we got our freedom, right? Because we were under British rule. And so I want to talk about personal freedom in your marriage and what that looks like. Are you ready to be free? Now, many of you have liked the title because, you know, you can look at this particular title a certain type of way. I need to be free because you don't feel free in your marriage. But what does personal freedom actually look like? We're going to be talking about that. And so one of the things we want to do before we dive into today's conversation, this weekend is our last chance weekend, and there's still an opportunity for you to get registered and signed up. We're almost at capacity, but I think we can squeeze a couple more in. You know, it's always good when you can squeeze a couple more in. And so if you've been vacillating, trying to determine whether you should show up or not, you want to be there. Last chance weekend, this coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, July 8th through the 10th. And so we're going to do what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks. We want to share a testimonial with you. We've been hearing from a lot of the women. Now we want to hear from a man so that he can share his experience. So watch this and we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Gonzalez Smith. I'm from Pennsylvania. I came to Atlanta to the Couples Academy to help restore my marriage. I've been dealing with issues within my marriage. We needed help. I had an affair and created infidelity within the relationship, whether it was talking to different women, having a sexual affair. Moving forward without getting proper help, proper tools, Couples Academy has helped us with the intensity of building blocks, building the relationship back, how with the essential tools of getting what's inside out on a table where you are free to discuss and release and let go what you're dealing with. My takeaway is not only coming to a peaceful environment, but coming with other couples who have experienced issues, coming to learn that my wife had issues with a emotional affair that I didn't even know about that lasted for years, and doing her part. We come to grips of learning how to forgive each other. It took me 2 years to find forgiveness coming from my wife that I expected. I encourage anybody to seek counseling for your marriage, for yourself. They have a system in place called the Enneagram. The Enneagram helps you identify the core of who you are and work on the steps and necessities to evaluate you as well as your spouse to understand how you operate. Ours were identical to the core. Something that she's like, do you get what I'm trying to tell you? Do you understand where I'm at? You understand where I'm coming from? But it was coming from a place of love. A lot of times people talk at each other rather than talk to each other. So this was a place in time where we were able to talk to each other. We was able to embrace each other. We was able to cry and just express ourselves. Male and female, we had couples where we were separated, where we went to an excursion that allowed us to absorb our spouse without the presence of our spouse. And it allowed you to reflect upon that part of your marriage That was the highest part. That was the highest part, because when you came back to reality, you came back to your spouse with authentic love, a deserving love that was not even painful. And that I'll never forget. It was the first time in months, in years, that I was able to hold my wife, get a simple hug from my wife since I've been here. I encourage you to make that discovery call. Reach out, because when you reach out to them, Hasani and Danielle, you're not only reaching out to professionals, you're actually reaching out to family without judgment, without reservation. So it's not a plea, it's not an urge, but it's an encouragement for you to move forward and genuinely come back if you choose to, because all things work together for the good of them that love him and are called according to his purpose. Thank you. God bless.
That's right. That was Gonzalez Smith. Now, we met Gonzalez and his amazing wife again, if you will, about sometime last year. They came to the Audacity of Marriage retreat and said, you know what, this was good, but I think we need something a little bit deeper. And they made the decision to come to the Last Chance Weekend, and that was the beginning of a journey of personal transformation and marital restoration. And since that time, they have been in an incredible space. You talk about a complete turnaround. And as a result of their healing and their restoration, they gained a passion for other couples. They said, you know what, if we could go through this and overcome, then we can help other couples go through their journey as well and get to a better place. And then became marriage coaches. They're Couples Academy certified coaches. So see, there's power. If you think that your situation is horrible, that there's no future, that there's no hope for healing and restoration, the reason why we share these testimonials with you is so that you can become a believer, because many of you think that your situation is different. Nobody could ever understand what you're going through. Nobody's been in it as bad as you have. And so we're very, very, very particular about who we bring onto the team, because many of you want to know, well, can they relate to my situation? Have they gone through what I've gone through? Because the reality is many practitioners have no clue, no experience, no training, no background in any of this work, any of it. And so we're seeking the right advice from the wrong people and wonder why our relationships still are struggling. We give up, we throw in the towel, we call it quits. Now, that means on the counseling process. So either we stay trapped in a miserable relationship or decide that this relationship is not worth keeping. And it's all because we sought wisdom from the wrong ones. But rule number one says, who do you listen to? You listen to people who have what you want and have been where you are. And that's what you get here at Couples Academy, people who have gone through the fire and have overcome it, and then can guide you through a process to get back to the other side. So you need to sign up for the Last Chance Weekend. And so one of the things that we're going to be talking about in that weekend is your personal freedom. Because listen, one of the things that we say all the time, and if you have paper and pen, I want you to write this down. Some of you can quote it because we've said it again and again and again. But sometimes it takes hearing something 1,001 times before it really sinks in. And I'm going to say it again. The key to your marital restoration is your personal transformation. So in essence, when you decide that you're going to become the best version of yourself, when you decide that you're going to overcome your issues, your faults, your flaws, your idiosyncrasies, all of the baggage from your past, when you decide that enough is enough and you're going to get out of life what God has in store for you as an individual, that's when breakthrough, that's when transformation, that's when healing comes. But no matter what side of the fence you're on, oftentimes in relationships, what traps us and keeps us bound is our bitterness, our resentment, our unforgiveness, our unwillingness to release certain hurts and pains, and we carry that from one year into the next year. And even though what happened to us happened 5 years ago, I'm still hurting today as if it happened today, even though it was 5 years ago, because we're still living in the past and we're allowing those negative thoughts and memories to marinate in our minds, and we can't get beyond the pain. And many of us remain sufferers in our relationship and wondering why things aren't getting better, because oftentimes we're pointing our finger at our spouse, not realizing that there are 3 fingers pointing right back at us. And at the end of the day, when you point your finger at your partner and you make them 100% responsible for your hurt and your pain, you've given up your power. You've made a decision to enslave yourselves to someone's poor decisions. And so you choose to remain trapped in your pain for the rest of your life. And it's not until you take your power back. It is not until you realize, even though I may not be responsible for being on the ground, I got to get up. I got to do something about it. I got to get up off my feet and move forward. And so there's a responsibility that I, as an individual, have to take, even though it didn't happen to me. You know, there's a woman I can think of right now. She suffered a bad car accident. Had nothing to do with her. It wasn't her fault. It was not her fault. And as a result of that, still today, she is angry and enraged at the driver of that vehicle and can't release it, won't let it go, struggling on a daily basis, harboring pain, resentment, and bitterness, and it has affected her life, her relationship. I mean, and these are the things that happen to us when we experience challenges throughout our life. We hold on to these things, and it stifles our progress. But you got to remember that in life, it's not what happens to you, but how you show up. And adversity wasn't meant to make you bitter, but it was meant to make you better. So in this experience, what can I learn? What can I gain from this? How can I look at this setback as nothing more than a setup for a comeback? How can I begin to change my thinking, my mindset, my attitude to overcome what I am currently going through? And once you do that, and once you realize that you are the lowest common denominator, that's the next point, you are the lowest common denominator in your marriage, in your relationships, change begins to happen. Now let's think about this. I've been in a relationship, it didn't go well. So I left him because he ain't no good. And I ran out of that relationship into another relationship, same issues, same problems, same struggles, different name, different face, different personality, but the same stuff. It's a rerun relationship. And I'm like, you know what? Here's another joker. He ain't no good. I'm going to jump into another relationship. Same situation. Why is it that I keep attracting the same dude, the same situation? Maybe in addition to whatever that person brought to the table, there are some things within you that you haven't released. There were some things in you that you haven't let go. There are some things that you haven't become free from yet. And what happens is we begin to draw to us situations and circumstances and people into our lives based upon whatever it is that is happening on the inside of us. But a lot of times we don't take the time to take personal accountability. A lot of times we don't take the time to look within ourselves to see what's going on, what's going wrong. And so as a consequence, we find ourselves in the same scenario, trapped in this perpetual cycle of sickness, not being able to break free. But when you take a look at yourself and begin to work on you, all of a sudden things begin to change. Guys, we're talking about finding personal freedom in your relationship. Stay tuned for this quick announcement, and we will be right back. All right, guys, we're back. Welcome to the Couples Academy show. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about finding personal freedom in your marriage and what that really looks like. But before we go into some of these points, let's go to the comments. First, we have Denise White. She says, Gonzalez is my brother. Gonzalez was that good-looking guy in the testimonial that you heard from a little bit earlier. I'm a witness that this has changed everything for the better. This is real people ministering to real people with real problems. You know, it's one thing. See, here's the deal. You can tell if people's lives are really changed by having conversations with people who are close to them. Because as we always say, you have a public life, a private life, and a secret life. And you can create whatever image you want publicly. You can be whoever you want, right? But you can't hide from the people who have access into your life. And when you have people who are attached to your private life and say that, yes, this is real, that there's been a transformation, then that really validates what you just saw, right? Because we could stage these testimonials and we could say this and do that. But when you have other people who said, no, this stuff is real, because they have real situations and real problems, and they've been ministered to in a real way. So what worked for them can work for you. That is what gives us hope. So I appreciate you sharing that, Denise. We have Christina says, good morning. Is the Last Chance Weekend only for marrieds that are on life support? Do you have something for couples wanting to have a stronger marriage? I would highly, 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 highly recommend that you attend the Last Chance Weekend, because interestingly enough, and we said this a couple days ago, I would say about 80% of the people who come here say, good God, I wish we had this before we got into crisis. If we only knew then what we know now, we would have avoided the situations that we had gone through. So I think the Last Chance Weekend is a phenomenal experience that you and your partner should go through. You have to understand, we have a certain percentage of people who are not even married. We're not Marriage Academy, we're Couples Academy. So whether you're in a marital relationship or a non-marital committed relationship, the Last Chance Weekend is a phenomenal experience for you. We don't just deal with crisis. That is the entry in. So there is a healthy portion of what we do that speaks to the crisis and helps you overcome the horrible pain that you're going through. But then we focus on your individual recovery as well as your marital recovery. So working on you as an individual and working on building a healthy foundation for a long-lasting, mutually beneficial relationship is key to your success. So I would say reach out to us. Let's set up a discovery call and go a little bit deeper into your situation to see how we can help you. We have we have a lot of questions here. I struggle with true forgiveness. I forgave out of necessity to move forward, but I have these inner conversations that I cannot quiet. My heart says he will not hurt me, but my gut brain, part one of these, is saying I'm foolish for believing that. He is doing the work, but it is still hard to forgive. This is Shalise from New Jersey. Well, let me appreciate you for being transparent and talking about this. So this is an example right here of, finding personal freedom within your marriage, because oftentimes we are bound to beliefs, to convictions, to ideas, to value systems, to emotions that keep us trapped in our own individual pain. And it impacts our ability to show up in the marriage in a particular way. Let me just first start off by saying there are some people who are wired to forgive easy. There are certain people who have gone through hurts and pains and have had experiences where they've held on to pain and bitterness and resentment, and they've never apologized. They've never released. They don't even know what that looks like. They didn't see it in their home. They didn't do it in past relationships. So now they're in a marriage and they confront one of the biggest challenges of their life and wonder why they struggle to forgive. Well, because they've never made a habit of it in many instances. If you've never done something and now you have to do it, it can feel impossible. If you have an upbringing of always forgiving, then it becomes very possible. But is it now impossible for someone who doesn't have a past in forgiving to forgive? No, it is a process. You have to understand that there is a journey to forgiveness. There is a pathway to forgiveness. And unfortunately, many people think that if I'm still hurt, if I still internally struggle, if I still have triggers, I truly haven't forgiven. There are layers and depths to forgiveness. If I could, not every analogy lands. I'm going to try it. This is just off the top. So there's certain restaurants, like there's a restaurant called, it's like the China Bistro. We went to this restaurant like a couple weeks ago. We got this 6-layer cake, right? It was like this tall. There were 6 layers to this cake, right? So the first layer was still chocolate cake. The second layer tasted no different than the first. It was still chocolate cake, but it was a deeper layer. And then we went to layer number 3 and number 4 and number 5 and number 6. What's the point? The point is there are levels to forgiveness, right? So maybe in your process, you've gone to a certain level, but it requires a deeper dive. So I'm not sure if you are a student of forgiveness. We talk about this all the time. Whatever you struggle with the most, you must become a master student of that particular thing so that in time you begin to master that thing. And so there are a phenomenal number of books that, we could recommend on forgiveness, but even in The Audacity of Marriage, we talk about how to heal the hurt in your marriage, and we do a mini deep dive into forgiveness and what needs to begin to happen on a daily basis in terms of your personal rituals to begin to release the bitterness, the pain, the hurt, and to walk in genuine forgiveness. And so I would encourage you to do that. And I don't want you to second guess or question, have you truly forgiven? Maybe you have, but you just need to go deeper. Some people need to sit in that for quite some time until they truly, truly, truly release things. But I appreciate you sharing that. Jay says, my spouse is putting in the work sometimes. I need her to show up every day so that I can work on forgiving her for the affair. Well, her showing up every day has absolutely nothing to do with your forgiveness. Truth be told, we know people who are married to spouses who continue to violate the relationship, but yet they forgive. And then you have other people who are walking in integrity and honorable and haven't done anything wrong in terms of that in years, and their spouse still struggles to forgive, right? So forgiveness isn't necessarily predicated upon what your spouse does or doesn't do. Now, obviously, it would help, right? Because both of you should be living according to principles that protect the integrity of your marriage. But see, this is an example of what I'm talking about. You're still looking outward at your partner to determine what you're inwardly going to do. And there are two different things. Your personal freedom comes from within, is an opportunity of living life from the inside out, not the outside in. So your forgiveness can't be based upon circumstances. It can't be based upon how your partner's shown up. It can't be based upon any of that. Because when you're with an unwilling participant, someone who chooses not to do the right thing, this is where what we would call acceptance, which is a form of forgiveness. See, genuine forgiveness is when you have two willing participants. So they're both showing up the right way. There's accountability. There's checks and balances. There's conversations. There's a new path. But acceptance is when you need to forgive for yourself, because if you don't, it's almost like you're falling into emotional quicksand and you can't find the healing that you need to sustain life. And we have found that when people struggle in certain areas of their life, it affects other areas of their life. So because I'm struggling internally, it affects my ability to parent, it affects my ability to show up at work, it affects my relationships, it affects every area of my life. And so to set yourself free from that, this is what we mean by personal forgiveness. And so Angel says, thank you, Angel. Angel says, forgiveness is for you. It is for you. It is not necessarily just for your spouse. It is for you. And oftentimes you think, well, I'm going to let him off the hook, or I'm going to give her the indication that what she did wasn't bad, and it's just going to give him, fuel to do it again. No, that's not what forgiveness does. And if you've redefined forgiveness and made it something that it's not, it then becomes impossible to fully forgive. Debbie says, forgiveness will release you from the constant anger. Forgiveness is for you. If you don't, it will keep you trapped. Been there, done that. You see past tense? Been there, not am there. Been there, done that. I love it. Forgiveness, Gonzalez says, forgiveness is for within you to heal and to move forward. And so this is all a part of finding personal freedom within your marriage. So some of the points that I was going to go to is, number one, how do you begin to find personal freedom? You got to identify your vices. And so for you, maybe the vice is the inability to forgive. Maybe it's the bitterness that you're holding on to. But many of you have vices. Maybe alcohol is a vice. Excuse me. Maybe drug use is a vice. Maybe porn addiction is a vice. Maybe your anger is a vice, right? Think about your personality faults and flaws and idiosyncrasies and the things that you struggle with, the habits that you've held on to that have kept you trapped in the pit of your pain, right? Think about that vice. If that vice were removed, what impact would that have in your life? What impact would that have on your relationship? Now, in the book, The Audacity of Marriage, chapter 2, Help My Mouth is Killing My Marriage, I've talked about the verbal assassin. And we know that communication is one of the biggest challenges that people struggle with in their marriage. And so what is your vice when it comes to the way in which you communicate? Are you a verbal assassin? Are you someone always calling your spouse out their name, cursing and screaming, yelling, spitting, fussing, cussing, fighting? Like, what is your personal vice? Is it your anger? Is it that you always interrupt? Is it that you always talk over your spouse? If you were to identify that vice by being honest with yourself and removed it from your life, what impact would that have on your marriage? Right? So think about your vice in any area of your personal life and how it's impacting not just you, but other people around you. And once you've identified that vice, seek and embrace virtues, right? You want to remove the vices and embrace a virtue. A virtue is a standard. A virtue is something that you're aspiring to. A virtue is an internal value system, a moral compass by which you govern your life. When you live your life by virtues, you're finding personal freedom from all the things that have kept you bound. One of my favorite quotes, and I've said this time and time and time again, and that is this. This is by, I believe it's James Allen who said, "Men are anxious to improve their circumstances, but are unwilling to improve themselves." It goes on to say, and as a result, they remain bound. And so you remain bound in your life because you're looking for external circumstances to change so that it will cause an internal change in you. And that's backwards in your approach. Whatever change you want to see in the world must first start with you. Whatever change you want to see in your marriage must first start with you. So as you work on your personal improvement, it will improve the quality of your relationship. Guys, you're watching the Couples Academy show. We just wanted to give you a little dose to get you through your day. We're excited to come back tomorrow. We're going to be diving into a brand new series. But make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you share this with the community. Listen, we're on the other side of the 4th of July. It was great to see fireworks. It was great to eat good food. And it's great to celebrate the freedom that we have from another nation. But we want you to find freedom in yourself. We want you to find freedom in your marriage so that life from this point on can be phenomenal. Love you guys. See you in the morning. Take care.